Welcome, everyone, to the June 14th, 2022 Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District meeting. Our first order of agenda is to call this meeting to order and Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I can do something. I'll hand the sign-in sheet to you.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Kurt. Well, our first item is for any public comment that people wish to make, and I think we have a couple people who would like to make some comments, so go to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and welcome.
Good morning, managers and staff. My name is Steve Pani, 5000 Cedarwood Street, Northeast Prior Lake, former manager for the Watershed District, former chair on the CAC. And I've been talking to people recently that live on the lake and go boating. And I'm kind of shocked that they're not aware of the water surface use management rules. And there are some specific ones that were passed by the City Council in 2016. So they were complaining about the wake boats and the shoreline erosion and the other behavior of some of the boaters. But I said, well, do you know about the Prior Lake specific water surface use management rules? And they had no idea. So I helped them find it. But it's a little hard to find on the city website. It's actually under Public Works. And to find it, if you go to, let's see, boating, let's see, no, that's not it. Search, here it is. Search Lakes of Prior Lake on the city website. Lakes of Prior Lake. And it'll take you to the Public Works Department. And it would be great to have that information on the Watershed District website available where people can find it. It does involve the watershed as far as shoreline erosion. And also we have a member of the PLA here. It's not on their website. It's also not on the Spring Lake Association website. And people don't really know about it. There are state rules, statewide boating rules, but there are some specific in Prior Lake. So it would be great to get this information out there more so people know about it and they can do the right things. So that's what I have for tonight. So search on the city website, Lakes of Prior Lake, and you'll get to the boating and lake use rules. And finally, I'd just like to thank a couple of managers that are moving on. Kurt Hennis, 8 years plus, did great work, and Mike Miser, I think 4 or 5 years, great work. Current manager's doing well, our staff's doing well, so it's great to see everyone, and thanks for your hard work. The end.
Thank you, Steve. And Steve's a former board member as well, so thank you for your service. We'll take that under advisement, staff, and see what we can do. Is there anyone else who'd like to come to speak in the public comment period? You have a list, aren't you? Work off the list. This is just people signing in that necessarily want to talk.
When I did my thanks, I missed some people, and I don't want to have to feel bad about that or look over my shoulder. I missed Woody Spitzmuller and Steve Pani. They were both excellent additions to the board, and Woody, I think, was on for 2 terms. Steve was on for one or at least a partial one, but they both added a lot. I really enjoyed working with them, and I believe I cited everyone else. The new staff I did, and Elizabeth, Allison, very much so. Shauna was been with us for a while. And thinking back on people like Maggie especially, and Jamie Rockney, I think of them too. A lot of good people, a lot of good friends, a lot of good vibes. So, and things are in good hands with Bruce as the new prez, and we'll see what happens. But if you need any help, any thoughts, any input, please let me know. Carl, been good knowing you too. It's been a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kurt. Appreciate it. Anybody else want to speak at the public comment period? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move to a public hearing for the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. It's our annual public hearing for the 2021 MS4 Annual Report Summary. Joni, you're up.
Vice President Loney. The Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District is a MS4 for the outlet structure and the pipe leaving Prior Lake. MS4s on an annual basis must prepare an annual report and submit it to the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, highlighting the activities of the district as it relates to our MS4 plan, and also to, on an annual basis, hold a public hearing, which we're doing this evening, to where the public can make comments on our annual report, which is also called our Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan, the SWIP. The annual report really, once again, highlights our activities related to 6 areas associated with the prevention, detection, and elimination of pollutants in our storm sewer system. Those 6 areas that are highlighted in our annual report relate to public education and outreach, public participation and involvement, illicit discharge detection and elimination, construction and stormwater runoff control, post-construction stormwater management, and then pollution prevention and good housekeeping for municipal operations. So with that, the report has been also a public notice has been put into the Prior Lake American for the last 2 weeks on June 4th and 11th, notifying the general public of this opportunity and of this public hearing. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Vice President Loney.
Okay, the public hearing's open. Anybody who wishes to speak on this topic, the hearing is open for you to speak. Crickets. Okay, not hearing anybody coming to the podium. Motion to close the public hearing? Motion by Christian? Second by Frank. All in favor, say aye. 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 And the hearing is closed. There's no further item for us to vote on. That's it. That's it. So we're moving on to the approval of the agenda. That's what we have to do now. And is there any additions, corrections, or deletions from anybody? I have none. Joni, you have none? Okay, a motion to approve the agenda? So moved. Frank's motion? Christian, you second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried, 3-0. Guess people who didn't have noticed, there's only 3 of us up here tonight. We're missing 2 members. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to Christian, the treasurer's report.
Yes. So in working on looking through our finances together with Joni, overall the status is good. We have our general fund that currently is about 30% of the budget for the year. We have our implementation fund that currently is about 14% of the budget. And the numbers are reflecting, like a lot of the payments for projects and so on are reflecting the bills that were paid for April. They were paid in May. The things like salaries and benefits and our rent to Prior Lake City, those are up to date as of the 5/31st. So that's all good. Looking at our bank status, we have about 1 million at Old National Bank, 160,000 at Sterling, 500,000 is a new thing at the 4M Fund, and so a total of about 1.7 million, and so we no longer have any funds at Northland Securities. We have our restricted or assigned funds, where we have about 940,000 in that one, and those are for permits for PLOC, for alum reserve, and Upper Blueprint Fund. Totally, our cash currently is about 34%. We are waiting here in June to be paid the tax levy, which should be about $900,000 plus. In terms of banking also, we are close to having our U.S. bank operations up and running, and we hope to be able to cut checks using our U.S. bank starting in July. Once we know everything is up and running, we plan to transfer more funds to 4M. We met with 4M representatives and talked about what are some of the options that we will be discussing in the future in terms of where the funds should be located in terms of the interest that comes out of whatever funds it is. As an example, if we had $900,000 standing in some restricted funds that we know will not be using within the next 9 months, there's an option to go into a CD for a limited amount of time, and that would give a better interest rate. So overall, I think the financial status is good. Any questions?
Any questions, Frank? Any questions?
No.
No, and I just have one, Christian, is do we anticipate when we're going to close out the other banks and go to U.S. Bank totally?
Yes, so once our cooperation with U.S. Bank is smooth and running, and then that works, and we know that it works well together with our 4M funds, at that point in time, when we feel it's ready, then we can make the transfers, if I'm correct, Joni?
Right. And Vice President Loney, we will need to keep the Sterling account open for a period of time just to make sure that all of the outstanding checks clears. And once those checks have cleared, we would then close the Sterling account. And I would say probably sooner rather than later, we would then transfer the bulk of the funds from Old National into the 4M.
Okay, great. And then we're going to get down to one bank operation. Thank you, Christian. Okay, good report. Well, now we're going to go to old or new business. We want to do an acknowledgement to the outgoing president, Mike Miser, who is leaving us, or has left us, I guess. He's no longer, he's a private citizen again, I take it. And I just want to say a few words. Mike started on the board here in March 13, 2018, and he became VP on April 10, 2018, and then president sometime in March of 2019. I think when I got on the board, you were already president. So I've got the pleasure to work with Mike in my 3.5 years as president. And Mike, you've done an excellent job. You really showed us great leadership and vision and just passion to really improve the lakes and the water quality and everything that we're associated with in the watershed. And appreciate what you've done. And I know you're a phone call away. So if we need any help, we'll find you in Montana if we have to. Okay, that's all I have to say. Anything else from anybody?
Is that green?
Yeah.
Thank you. Mike, you and I have had the opportunity to serve together in 2 different stints in 2 wholly different roles. Way back when I was city manager, Mike was mayor of the community. And interesting relationship we had, but he's always established himself, at least in my mind, as a guy who's an idea person to start with, is very taken with objectives, setting them, and then accomplishing them. Shifting now to my far shorter term here as a watershed manager, I've seen those same kinds of characteristics. And I've seen a change in the watershed, in my mind at least, where innovation is important, that we test things like the various things we're doing with carp, which I know are kind of on the brand new efforts and efforts untried before, and setting objectives, the big 6 projects, so that we can focus on those and make a real difference. You kind of think about jobs in your life, at least I do at this point, and you think about the people you meet along the way. Do they make you better? Do they leave you the same or worse? Do they leave you worse than you started with? And I think that this job here and also the job for the city, Mike is a classic example of one of the people who make us all better. Certainly has made me better, and I thank you very much for that. And I wish you the best in everything you do. Who knows, maybe you're going to be mayor of that little Montana town in your 7 acres or 20 acres of land. Best of luck to you in any case.
Yes, I will second all those comments. I've had the pleasure of knowing Mike Meiser for more than 15 years, and I've always been impressed with your ability to listen and to assess situations and think about potential solutions, how you can drive people to do their best. And it's a tremendous value. There's been a big benefit to the Watershed District, to Prior Lake City, and so thank you so much for that. I think it's fun that you're a private businessman and you can still find time to work for the public and for the better of the community, and so I think that's a great role model to have both, be able to do both things, and I certainly wish you the very best as you go out there and make a difference out there. And it's been a pleasure to know you, and I hope we can stay in contact, and that I personally will be able to call you and say, what do you think? And what we have to make sure is we don't lose that memory of what has happened before, so we at the current board can still remember what you did. The same, Steve Pawney is here tonight, which is wonderful. Kurt Hennis is here tonight. Woody Spitzmüller is here. These are tremendous people that have served this board in the past, and we really appreciate you being here and giving your feedback. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you, Mike. You're limited to 5 minutes, too.
I did put a few thoughts, but it's interesting, Frank, you made the comment, because actually the reason I didn't run for re-election is because I started the business that I'm currently in. We're starting a business now in Montana, and if I had started that business before seeking a reappointment, I would not have sought a reappointment because life changes and you get busier. But anyway, thank you for your kind words, and I did write a few thoughts. Really, because of the 4 years I've had, it's been a marvelous opportunity to work with great colleagues on the board and district staff over these last 4 years for me. And so thank you for all of you for working with me. And Carl, you're kind of in that quasi, I'll call you staff at this juncture. But for those who are recently departed from the board, and of course not really departed, but Charlie and Kurt and Fred, Steve and Woody, you guys are here. Great to see you. You guys helped us get to where we are today. And of course, previous staff, Diane, Maggie, and Jamie really stood out as well. You know, we all stand on the shoulders of those who go before us in the work that we do. And there was a lot of great work that's been done. And I wrote here, together we have been great stewards of the taxpayers' money and staff time. Don't ever forget, right? Staff time is part of the taxpayers' money. And it's through the focus prioritization of those precious resources to deliver what matters most to the community, what we're here to do. The lakes in the districts are really in better shape, I think in very good shape. In fact, over the weekend, I was playing in Upper Pryor and Lower Pryor with my wife, my nephew, and my pup. And I got to tell you, it's, you know, I moved onto the lake in 2003, and in Upper Pryor, which is, of course, the portion that I live on, I can actually see the bottom of the lake, literally see the bottom of the lake. I mean, this is a never-before thing that's happened, and I can play in the lake, and I don't have to rinse my sinuses, and my dog's playing. So the health of this, for not only for me and my family, but for all the people that we're here for. It's what we do this stuff for. It's right. It's one of the main drivers, is to provide a healthier environment for those folks. Here I see another colleague, Fred, who's coming. So it's a far healthier place for our, you know, kids in the family. And now, Bruce, as I hand the baton to you, you really do. You have a great team and some of our new colleagues with Christian and Frank joining, and the individuals not here this evening, and of course, Matt and Ben. But Joni, I feel so fortunate, and I think the comments I made really early was that we were very fortunate that our paths crossed, because I know it was sort of on a whim that you took this job. And everything that I've seen that you've done has been outstanding to help build and grow and improve the district and the staff and the team. Really, and I mean that, the team that we see you building, and this isn't just my eyes, but I know I've talked to my previous colleagues, and that's what we've heard. The people you're hiring are very good people to go do the work on behalf of the community, so it's good stuff. Bruce, you're in good order to take this joint over. I'm sure you're going to do a fine job. You have more than the skills and experience and demeanor to take it on. So over the weekend, and one of the free things that I get to do now, I was actually reading a magazine, and there was an item actually in there, it was an article that hearkened, and they talked about some of the great philosophers in this magazine and tying it to some work. And I'm reading, two of these quotes stood out because I thought, well, it's pertinent for this group here. And here are the two quotes. Do what is essential, do less, better. Because most of what we do or say is not essential. If you can eliminate it, you will have more tranquility. Marcus Aurelius. And in a similar vein, there was another one. Better a little, which is done well, than a great deal done imperfectly. Plato. And of course, as a philosophy and English major, these things hit for me. But sort of what struck me is really what the effort's been in this district for a long time. It's really to focus on what is essential to our community and be great stewards of the district's money and staff time. You know, things that we stopped doing, the lake pumps, pulling buckthorn from city parks, rain barrels, the multitude of signs, pulling invasives along the out channel. While nice to do things, don't deliver that clean water that our kids play in. It's nice to do, but the focus, you know, we need to focus and have focused on what is essential to our community. We occasionally get small numbers of vocal people asking for money to, for example, to study or eliminate goldfish in Kate's Lake. But compare that with the 4,500 people who actually live on our key lakes of Spring and Upper and Lower Pryor, and the thousands from the community who go and play in those lakes, right? It's the health that we're after for those folks. They swim, fish, play, and fish Pryor, Spring, you know, Upper and Lower Pryor. So again, focus on what is essential to our community, for you have limited money and staff time. The thought, and Bruce, I've shared this with you, the upper watershed and the 5 projects you mentioned contribute over 2,400 pounds of phosphorus a year into the lakes. That's over 200 pounds of phosphorus a month, 70 pounds per day. So if we have a project like the Moen project that might save 3 pounds of phosphorus a year, well, how much staff time and money does that take? I know it wasn't a lot of money or staff time, but still, versus if we wait and delay one more month, that's 200 pounds of phosphorus. I mean, we don't have anything better that we could do for our community. You know, even the delay on those projects for 5 years, it'd be 12,000 pounds of phosphorus and sediment. What's that going to cost us in alum treatment? But anyway, my final thoughts. The district really is for the community. From my view and my eyes, the district's in very good shape. We've got great staff, great engineer in Carl, EOR. The lakes, the finance staff and managers are all in really good shape. And actually, it made it easy for me when I knew it was the right thing to do for me, but there's good people to take this baton and really take it on and lead it. So again, thank you all for what you do and you'll continue to do for the essential stuff for this community. Thanks a lot. Good night.
There's one thing I forgot to mention about Mike. He did set a high bar. I know he's very humble not to say that, but he did set a high bar for us to maintain. So appreciate all you done, Mike. Okay, we're moving on to projects and programs. Who's got that? Shauna? Okay.
Good evening. I'll start off with the Fish Lake Shoreline and Prairie Restoration Project. Just a little bit of background on it, since it's been a while since I've talked about it. It's located along the shoreline of Fish Lake at the Spring Lake Township Town Hall. And prior to European settlement, this area was mostly native prairie and woodland habitat. And then after it was used for agriculture, this area became dominated mostly by turf grass and invasive species. So in 2019, the watershed was awarded a grant to restore the prairie and the shoreline. And just a little update, since 2019, the initial restoration, and then through 2020 and 2021, we did some maintenance, and now we've utilized the rest of our grant funding and added additional seedings and plants along the shoreline. We also designed and installed our prairie restoration and shoreline signs, which is really great. And you can kind of just see this before and after picture of the project as a whole.
Vice President Loney and managers, earlier this month, Prior Lake, Spring Lake Watershed District mailed out newsletters and pre-inspection postcards to landowners that have a conservation easement on their property. These inspections occur annually in the summer months, and our 2022 interns, Kendra and Sydney, have both begun easement inspections for this season. Prior Lake, Spring Lake Watershed District requires wetlands and water courses in new developments to be protected with buffer strips. Buffer strips protect our water resources by stabilizing the soils to prevent erosion, filtering sediment from stormwater runoff, and by soaking up stormwater runoff, which reduces flooding downstream. In addition, buffers enhance biodiversity by protecting wildlife habitat. Signs like the one pictured mark the buffer's edge boundaries within the district.
And if I can add into that while we're doing a staff's change, just to make sure, so the buffers are put around our natural resources to protect our natural resources, and then the district puts on permanent conservation easements on these buffer strips to permanently protect the buffer strips. And our easement inspections occur to make sure that residents are complying with the requirements of the easements, not dumping waste in the easement areas, or building hard surfaces. So we just go out there, do the inspections on an annual basis, and by doing these annual inspections, we receive a much higher compliance rate with the landowners.
Our lake levels currently are reading on Prior Lake 900.76. That is a decline since last meeting. Without rain, our lakes are beginning to lower. We are having issues with the Spring Lake Logger connection on the back end with our database. The staff gauge can be read at Raymond Park, and that reads, as of yesterday, 911.20. On Pike Lake, it's 820.19, and that's pretty steady. These are all at pretty low on Spring and Pike at base conditions, and in Prior, it's not discharging. Our carp activity since last month has netted, I shouldn't say net, electrofished in Upper Prior Lake, 730 carp at 400 4,400 pounds in Spring Lake, 179 carp removed at around 928 pounds. Our 2022 open water totals are at 1,277 carp at over 8,000 pounds. Much of these successes have come from carp espionage entries into our website, where citizens will notify us when they see carp activity in the lake or in streams. In addition to these removals, we've also included and added bluegills with partnership with Spring Lake Association. These bluegills got stocked into Geis Wetland and in the desalt pond. These bluegills will help prey on spawning carp eggs, and they're very prolific carp egg eaters. I wanted to give kind of a very final update on our MPCA 319 grant process. It's completely closed out and approved, and through this project, our internal TP loads were reduced by almost 200 pounds in Spring Lake, with a carp biomass reduction of 19,000 pounds. In Upper Prior Lake, internal TP loads were reduced by 499 pounds annually, and that was through the removal of 39,000 pounds of carp. With this reduction in TP loads and removal of carp, we did see substantial aquatic vegetation distribution and species richness increased in both lakes. These processes have allowed the lakes to meet water quality goals with TP, chlorophyll A, and Secchi depth, and that was met through the from the beginning to the conclusion of the project. So the blocking of the carp, removing and tracking, made a big difference, and overall a very successful grant project. Oh, sorry. The report can be viewed in the carp. It's on our website. There's a link to it. It's in our carp management links on the district website.
I have a quick question. Is this something that we have to report every year to the MPCA, or is there just a one-time?
This is just from the 2018 through 2021 grant.
Grant?
Yep.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
And we wanted to highlight this study and that it is available on the website, because it contains really a lot of really good information. And if people are really interested in understanding more about the activities that were taken through this grant, we encourage you to take a look at that report.
Yeah, it's not a short report. It's a couple hundred pages long, and it details all the efforts that the district took, equipment used, what we learned, all the tracking efforts that were taken. Very, very thorough with data analysis, and it took a lot of time to build this report.
Is this something staff did? Did you guys put the
Yes.
report together?
Yep.
Okay.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving into curly leaf pond retreatments have occurred in June. On the left, you can see the numbers are the delineated heavy growth potential treatment zones. These were done by Blue Water Science on June 8th. So at the end of May, PLM conducted the treatments. On the right, you can see where it's circled in red. All those treatments were highly successful. in knocking back curly leaf pondweed. These treatments on this slide occurred in Upper and Lower Prior Lakes, with a total of around 10 acres of treatment area.
Hey Jeff, how much does it cost to treat an acre of this kind of curly leaf?
Gosh, off the top of my head, around, Joan,
Vice President Loney, I'm not sure that I can tell you on a price per acre, but comparable areas are treated every year, and the district expends about $6,000 on curly leaf pondweed treatment on an annual basis.
Yeah, the reason I asked that, we discussed the Scott County, what they reimburse us, possibly up to $12,000 a year. So could we do more treatments? Or, you know, if we're only spending $6,000, maybe we can spend more if we can find them, huh?
yeah, that is true. We don't quite know exactly how much we plan on treating per year. So we could go through and do an analysis and see how to optimize that $12,000.
Okay. Do we ever have to go back to these areas again and re-hit it a second time, or once and done?
If our post-treatment assessments show that it was not effective, we will have the contractor go back and retreat.
Okay, thank you.
On the left is Spring Lake, and where the delineation of heavy growth potential curly leaf pondweed occurred. That area is right around the boat launch. I have not yet received the post-treatment delineation because I do believe there was some return treatment work, like you had just mentioned. There was the post-treatment assessment showed that there were small amount of curly leaf. So some, I guess you could call it warranty work was done. And in news from Spring Lake Association, their Eurasian water milfoil treatments are moving forward, and through the DNR New Infestations Grant, they will be treating around 12 acres in Spring Lake.
And Jeff, I think, so the Spring Lake Association did receive a significant grant to help with the treatments there, so that's wonderful that they can be an active participant and work with you.
Yep, that's really good work by Wes Steffen with Spring Lake Association getting this grant secured.
Providing a quick update on some of the work that we're doing with the Prior Lake Outlet Channel. Bids were received on a construction project to repair some erosion along certain segments of the channel. In a couple of days, there will be a recommendation, a request for the PLSLWD cooperators to recommend an award to a contractor to perform that work, which we would expect to be done this summer and wrapped up by this fall. We did have the pipe that runs from the outlet structure that is about 2,000 feet long and then daylights into the start of the channel televised to understand what is the condition of the pipe. And we will then need to be having some discussions regarding the type and the timing of maintenance activities associated with that pipe, because it is a critical piece of infrastructure.
Is that it for programs?
We did have some slides that disappeared in terms of some of our Big Six construction projects. I will say that for the from memory. So of our upper watershed blueprint priority projects, for the Spring Lake West feasibility study, that has been approved, and we will be looking to reinitiate conversations with the property owners to start talking about implementation of that, possibly moving forward with implementation. For the Sutton Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter feasibility study, staff needs to perform a final review of that feasibility study. Then it will be brought forward for the board approval. And then staff will be touching base with the property owner associated with that feasibility study in the fall of 2022, just to see where that property owner is standing in relation to the project. For our feasibility study associated with Buck Wetland Enhancement, we are right now in the process of collecting and analyzing some soil samples and also collecting water flow and water quality data to help us prepare some concepts for enhancements to that area that we would then bring forward to the landowners sometime this fall. The County Ditch 13 chemical treatment system study is going to be brought forward for grant funding through the Watershed-Based Implementation Fund. That is funding that comes through Bowser. So that is one project that we are going to try to advance using grant funding. So our next step there will be trying to get the scope of service, the work, and the budget approved by Bowser so that we can move forward with that feasibility study. We found out with the Buck Channel chemical treatment system that a previous study was performed a number of years ago. So we will then go ahead to solicit, the expectation is that we will solicit proposals to update that plan. The date yet is to be determined. And then finally, the last of the Upper Watershed Blueprint feasibility studies would be to do a Swamp Lake Iron Enhanced Sand Filter. Once again, the intent is to solicit proposals to consultants to perform that study, and the timing of that yet is to be determined. Really all contingent about, once again, getting staffing in the district back up before we advance those studies.
Good reporting. I'd like to see that we're moving forward on a lot of these projects. Any questions, managers? Okay. Oh, we got one, Christian?
Yes, so that's important because we now are going to meet on setting the budget for 2023. And so we will have to get very much up to date on where we are with the different things so we can understand how to do the project. And also think about whether we should consider bonding to fund the projects as well.
Okay. That's it for programs and projects update. Now we're going to go to item with Keister's contract authorization. And I don't know who has this report. Is that Elizabeth?
Yes, thank you, Vice President Loney and Board of Managers. I'm just going to give a brief overview of Whiskey, which is the database software that we're pursuing, and where we are in that contracting process, and in the end request authorization to enter into an agreement with Keister's. So the database that the district has is outdated. It is built on a software that is no longer supported, which means it's not receiving maintenance and technical support. So it's just requiring a lot more staff and consultant time and resources in order to patch it and keep it running as best as we can. So in response to that, staff conducted an in-depth analysis in 2020 and 2021, looking at other database options, and ultimately decided that Whiskey is the most logical choice for the district. The final decision that we had to make going into 2022 before moving forward with the database is our server. A server is required to host the database. Again, staff examined several options, really giving it good thought, and we end up choosing to host the server through Keister's directly, or having them host the server rather, for a variety of reasons. It's cost competitive, the cost is locked in for the duration of the proposed contract, The maintenance and support is included within the existing cost, and it's also efficient and convenient to have our server and the database that is hosted on through the same organization or the same company rather than another third party. Other options that we looked at just couldn't check all of those boxes at the same time. Whiskey is budgeted for in 2022 in the monitoring program, specifically within the data management line item, which is $30,000. The 2022 costs, or the first year of Whiskey, total $25,650, with annual costs of $5,400. And I have included a table in the memo on page 2 that sort of details what's in that. But in the first year, the costs cover the initial purchase of the whiskey license, which is a one-time purchase, as well as training and data importation and just kind of getting started. It also, that $25,650 also includes the first year of database support and maintenance and the server as well. So we're at this point, we're in the contracting phase. We've gone back and forth a little bit with Kisters and negotiated, staff and Kisters has, and we've negotiated the scope of services and the costs to our satisfaction. And we're really at the finish line here with just having sort of the legal review through Smith Partners. So with that in mind, in order to move forward with this as soon as we can, we are seeking board authorization of the district administrator to enter into the Kisters agreement when it is finalized.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, managers, on this proposal? Frank? No.
No, it is. Great. So I remember when we moved to the whiskey software, right? Do I have that right?
We have not moved to it yet. It was discussed, and that has been the trajectory that we've been on, and now we're just trying to kind of take
So
this
this
final
is
step.
actually part of that transition. Okay, I better understand. Thank you.
Christian, go ahead.
I just want to say good research and work, and I personally am in favor of it.
Thanks.
Just one question for me. I mean, it sounds like this is a way to go because the other software is no longer supported. What additions or improvements does this program give us versus what we have now? Could you summarize that for us?
So our database as it stands is an access database, which essentially means all it can do is, we can store our data in the database and we can retrieve it from there. And that's really all we can do with it. Whiskey offers us a lot more in terms of what we can do with the data. We can more, it can do like load calculations and things like that. It just offers us a lot more in terms of how we can more effectively use our data. So that's kind of one of the main things.
Okay, thank you. Well, we need a motion here to authorize the district administrator to enter into the Keister agreement. Anybody want to make that motion? I will make that motion. Christian makes a motion. Second by Frank. Any more discussion by anybody? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried, 3-0. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to move on to item 5.4, which is the office space lease agreement with the City of Prior Lake. Joni.
Yes, Vice President Loney and managers. In July of 2021, Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District entered into a one-year lease with the City of Prior Lake for office space within the Prior Lake City Hall. The terms of the lease included a clause that allows the district to renew the lease on one-year increments for a period of an additional 4 years. So we're coming to the end of our end of the first year of the lease. The lease also includes a clause that with an annual renew, our rent would increase, including a 3% rent increase. So at this point, staff, though, is recommending to the managers to vote to approve the office space lease renewal with the City of Prior Lake for the period of 1 year.
Okay, well, since it's already June 14th, we pretty much have to approve this lease, I think. Anybody want to make a motion? Yeah, Green.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, motion by Frank, second by Christian, to go ahead and move the lease renewal for City of Prior Lake. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries, 3-0. Okay, we're moving right along here. We're going to go to the MOA with the City of Prior Lake for stormwater volume management, and I think Allison has this one.
Vice President Loney and managers, the city of Prior Lake has been reconstructing a little over half-mile of streets in downtown Prior Lake, along with corresponding utilities, curb, and gutter. The volume management practices of Prior Lake were unable to be incorporated into the work, and Prior Lake is providing such practices independently by committing to provide stormwater volume management practices associated with Permit 2101, the Fish Point Memorandum of Agreement. On March 8th, 2022, the Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District Board of Managers approved permit number 2201 under the condition that Prior Lake would provide 1,905 cubic feet of stormwater volume associated with permit number 2101 and an additional 8,554 cubic feet of stormwater volume associated with permit number 2201. This MOA is for the purpose of fulfilling the condition of permit number 2201. Prior Lake Spring Lake Watershed District is recommending to enter into a memorandum of agreement of the City of Prior Lake to allow the city to meet stormwater volume requirements for permit numbers 2101 and 2201.
You all done?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, any questions, managers, on any of this?
None.
I just had one. If they don't provide the extra volume, I think there was something in there about a stormwater fund they'd have to contribute, or what happens if they don't meet the deadlines?
Yes, Vice President Meiser, yes. If they don't meet the conditions or provide the required stormwater treatment, we are in the process associated with our recent new rules to create a stormwater fund. You probably will be hearing about that in the next month or so.
Okay.
So we will be starting to work with our partners to establish what the contribution dollar values would be associated with the stormwater fund.
And that was going to be my follow-up question. We haven't established that yet, but are going to. We'll need to do that. Okay. No other questions? We will be looking for a motion
So moved.
from Frank to enter into memo agreement with the City of Prior Lake.
Second?
Second by Christian. Any other discussion? I'm not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried, 3-0. Okay, I think the next item on our agenda is the consent agenda, which consists of meeting minutes for the board workshop, board meetings of May 10th, May 19th, special board meeting, meeting minutes April 28th, CAC meeting, claims list and visa expenditures, and then there's 4 development agreements for Burgess Estates South, Amaze Acres, Keelan Development LLC agreement, and Cowan Development agreement. Is there any item to be pulled, or anybody want to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Christian, second by Frank. And any more discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that is approved for the consent agenda. That takes us to the end of our items on the agenda, and then we just have the upcoming events. There's a PLOC Cooperatives Agreement meeting this Thursday, June 16th, from noon to 1:30. And then there's going to be a joint manager meeting with the CAC managers on June 30th. That's a Thursday, from 6 to 8. And then our next Board of Managers meeting will be Tuesday, July 12th. That's when we'll have 2 additional board members, Ben Burnett and Matt Tofinelli here. With that, I have a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made to adjourn the meeting and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned at 6:57.